Kang Minho watched the stars slide past his cockpit window and sighed. Another 14 hours until he reached the mining colony on Artemis 9. The cargo hold behind him was packed with medical supplies, water filters, and 300 kilograms of instant coffee. Not exactly glamorous work, but it paid the bills and kept him far from the chaos he'd left behind. His ship, the Baekdu, wasn't much to look at. She was a standard civilian freighter, boxy and slow, with more patches on her hull than original plating. But she was his, bought and paid for with 6 years of savings. No commanders, no missions, no orders. Just him, the cargo, and the endless black between stars. The proximity alarm shattered his peace. Minho sat up straight, his hands moving across the control panel before his brain fully registered the threat. Old instincts died hard. 3 contacts on sensors, coming in fast from his port side. Big ones, military grade, definitely not civilian traffic. This is civilian freighter Baekdu, en route to Artemis 9. He transmitted on the standard frequency. I'm showing 3 unknown vessels approaching my position. Please identify yourselves. The response came in a language his computer struggled to translate. The words appeared on his screen in choppy, awkward phrases. Human vessel. You will stop engines. You will not resist. Compliance means survival. Minho's stomach dropped. He'd heard stories about the Vrin Collective from other haulers at station bars. Bug-like aliens. Aggressive, expanding their territory faster than anyone liked. They'd had a few border incidents with human colonies. Nothing major yet, but the tension was building. This is a civilian cargo vessel, he transmitted again, keeping his voice calm. I'm carrying medical supplies and food. No weapons, no military cargo. There's been some kind of mistake. The 3 ships were closing fast now. Through his cockpit window, he could see them taking formation around him. They looked like someone had crossed a warship with a wasp nest. All angles and curves, with weapon ports visible along their hulls. Each one was twice the size of his freighter. You will shut down your engines now. The transmission came again. This is final warning. Minho's hand hovered over the throttle. He could run. The Baekdu wasn't fast, but he knew tricks that civilian pilots weren't supposed to know. He could probably lose them in the asteroid field 30,000 kilometers ahead. Probably. But running would make them think he was guilty of something. Running would make this worse. He powered down the engines. Engines offline, he transmitted. I'm cooperating. Please don't fire. The 3 Vrin ships surrounded him completely now, their weapons locked on his position. A tractor beam grabbed the Baekdu and started pulling her toward the largest vessel. Minho watched helplessly as his ship was dragged into an enormous hangar bay. The hangar was huge, easily large enough to hold 20 ships his size. It was also empty, except for a few Vrin fighters lined up against one wall. They weren't taking any chances with him. Armored figures appeared as soon as his ship touched down. Vrin soldiers, Minho realized. They looked like mantises wearing combat armor, with 4 arms and triangular heads. Each one carried weapons that looked organic, like they'd been grown instead of manufactured. The lead Vrin approached his airlock. Minho could see him through the camera feeds on his console. The alien's armor had more decorations than the others. Commander. Probably. Minho opened the airlock and stepped out slowly, hands visible and empty. I'm unarmed, he called out. This is a civilian vessel. Whatever you think I am, you've made a mistake. The Vrin commander stepped forward. When he spoke, a translator device on his armor turned his clicking sounds into rough human speech. You are human. Your vessel traveled through restricted space. You will be questioned. I've been using this route for 2 years, Minho protested. It's always been neutral space. I didn't know you'd claimed it. Ignorance is not defense, the commander said. His name, according to the translator, was Teklon. You will come with us. You will answer questions. If you speak truth, you will be released. Minho wanted to believe that. But the way the soldiers surrounded him didn't look like they were planning a friendly interview. Two of them grabbed his arms, not roughly, but firmly enough that he knew struggling would be stupid. "Can I at least lock my ship?" he asked. Teclon made a gesture. "Your vessel will be searched. We must confirm you carry no weapons or intelligence materials." "It's medical supplies and coffee," Minho said tiredly. They led him through the hangar and into the corridors of the massive ship. Everything was oversized, built for creatures taller than humans. The walls had a strange organic quality, like walking through the ribs of some enormous creature. Other Vryn they passed stopped to stare at him. Some made clicking sounds that his guards' translators didn't bother interpreting. The interrogation room was cold and bare, just a metal chair bolted to the floor and bright lights overhead. Standard setup, Minho thought. Every species apparently figured out the same intimidation tactics. Teclon stood across from him, while two other Vryn worked on a data tablet. "You are cargo pilot, you claim," Teclon said. "Young for such work. Alone. Unusual." "I like the quiet," Minho said. "And I'm 34. Not that young. Our scans show your vessel has military-grade encryption on its computer core." "Why?" Minho's blood went cold. He'd forgotten about that. When he'd bought the Baekdu 6 years ago, he'd transferred some personal files from his military days. Personal stuff. Nothing classified, but he'd never bothered to downgrade the encryption. "Old files," he said carefully. "Personal records. From before I became a civilian. Nothing important. Effort 20 way. Effort 20 way. Nothing important." One of the Vryn working the tablet made an excited clicking sound. He showed something to Teclon. The commander's head tilted in a way that Minho couldn't read. "We will see," Teclon said slowly, "what these files contain, and then we will know what you truly are." The Vryn left him alone in the cold room. Minho put his head in his hands. This was going to get complicated. Ralvik had been an intelligence officer for the Vryn Collective for 12 cycles, and he prided himself on his ability to extract information from captured data. The humans' encrypted files had taken his team 3 hours to crack. But now, they had full access. What he was seeing made his antennae twitch with concern. The human called himself Kang Minho, a simple cargo pilot. His ship registration confirmed this. But the files buried in his computer told a very different story. Military service records, combat footage, mission reports, all dated between 6 and 9 years prior. The human had been a fighter pilot for something called the Terra Defense Corps. "Pull up the combat footage," Ralvik ordered his assistant. "Start with the most recent files." The screen filled with the view from a fighter cockpit. The quality was excellent, clearly recorded from the pilot's own ship. Ralvik watched as the human pilot, presumably Minho, engaged enemy vessels. The enemies were labeled as Kreth, a species Ralvik didn't recognize. The footage was disturbing. The human's fighter moved with precision that seemed impossible. The ship twisted and rolled through enemy fire like water flowing around stones. Every shot the human took found its target. One enemy ship exploded, then another, then 3 more, in rapid succession. "How many kills in this engagement?" Ralvik asked. 14 confirmed. His assistant replied. "Duration of combat? 7 minutes. Ralvik felt his confidence faltering. He pulled up more files. Battle after battle. The same pilot. The same ruthless efficiency. The human destroyed carriers, frigates, even heavily armored cruisers. Nothing seemed to slow him down. But what caught Ralvik's attention was the communication chatter in the background of the recordings. The human wasn't alone. He was part of a squadron, and they all had the same designation prefix, Reaper. "Reaper 7 to Reaper 1, I have 3 on my tail." Minho's voice came through one recording. A female voice responded, calm and cold. "Reaper 1 to Reaper 7, break left on my mark. Reaper 3 and Reaper 5, swing around and cut them off." The coordination was flawless. The 3 enemy ships pursuing Minho were destroyed within seconds by his squadron mates. Then they all reformed and continued their attack on a massive enemy command ship. Ralvik paused the footage. What does Reaper mean in human language? His assistant worked the translation database. The results came back slowly. The closest translation to our language would be Harvester of Final Death. It is a human mythological figure that collects souls of the deceased. The room went silent. The Vryn named their military units after tactical concepts or territorial designations. They didn't name them after death gods. Pull up everything we have on this squadron, Ralvik commanded. The files were fragmentary, pieced together from intercepted human communications and public military records. Reaper Squadron, officially designated as the 7th Special Operations Fighter Wing, 12 pilots total. Service record: 4 years of active combat operations during what humans called the Frontier Wars. Confirmed kills: 847 capital ships. The numbers didn't make sense. 12 pilots couldn't possibly have achieved that kill count. Ralvik checked the data 3 times. This must be an error in translation, he said. 800 individual fighter kills? Perhaps? His assistant shook his head. No, sir. The human military classification is clear. Capital ships. Vessels over 500 meters in length. Ralvik felt cold. Searching now, sir. His assistant worked quietly for several minutes. Sir, I found references to the Kreth in our diplomatic database. They were a spacefaring civilization in the frontier regions. Military strength estimated at 200,000 vessels of various classes. Before the war, with humanity. And after the war? The assistant looked up, his compound eyes reflecting genuine fear. After the war, there are no more references to the Kreth, sir. The last recorded contact was 8 years ago. Their territory now belongs to human colonies. Ralvik stood up slowly. What happened to them? I don't know, sir. Commander Teklon arrived in the intelligence room an hour later. Ralvik had prepared a full briefing on everything they'd discovered. The commander watched the combat footage in silence, his mandibles clicking softly. This human, Teklon said slowly. The one we captured. He is one of these Reapers? Yes, sir. Designated Reaper 7. One of the squadron's most decorated pilots. Teklon watched as the footage showed Minho's fighter diving through the explosion of an enemy cruiser, using the debris as cover to approach another target. And he claimed to be a simple cargo pilot. He left military service 6 years ago, according to his records. The squadron was disbanded after the Frontier Wars ended. Bring him back to the interrogation room, Teklon ordered. I want to know more about these wars. And about what happened to the Kreth. Minho was brought back to the interrogation room. He looked tired, but calm. Ralvik noticed the human's eyes tracking the positions of every guard, calculating distances and angles. Old habits, perhaps. We have reviewed your files, Teklon said without introduction. You were a military pilot. Why did you not tell us this? You didn't ask, Minho replied. And I'm not anymore. I fly cargo now, have been for 6 years. You were part of something called Reaper Squadron. The human's expression didn't change, but Ralvik saw something flicker in his eyes. Memory, maybe. Or pain. That was a long time ago, Minho said quietly. Your unit killed 847 enemy capital ships. More than that, Minho corrected. Those were just confirmed kills. There were plenty we couldn't verify in the chaos. The casual way he said it made Ralvik's skin crawl. Minho was quiet for a long moment. We were at war. They attacked our colonies, killed a lot of people. So we fought back. But where are they now? Teklon pressed. What happened to the Kreth civilization? Minho met the commander's eyes. His voice was soft, almost sad. We didn't leave any. The words hung in the cold air of the interrogation room. Ralvik felt his antennae flatten against his head. An instinctive fear response he couldn't control. An entire species? Teklon asked. They didn't give us much choice, Minho said. Every time we tried to negotiate, they attacked another colony. Eventually, our leaders decided the only way to protect our people was to make sure the Kreth couldn't threaten anyone ever again. And you participated in this. I followed my orders. We all did. Minho leaned back in his chair. Look, I know how that sounds. But I'm not that person anymore. I left the military because I got tired of killing. I wanted to build something instead of destroying things. That's why I haul cargo now. Medical supplies, food, materials for building. I'm trying to be better than I was. Teklon and Ralvik exchanged looks. The humans seemed genuine. But the numbers didn't lie. They had captured something far more dangerous than a cargo pilot. Park Soon-jae worked as a linguistic specialist for the Vrin Diplomatic Corps, one of only 3 humans employed by the collective in any capacity. When Commander Teklon called him to the flagship with urgent priority, he'd expected a simple translation issue. What he found instead was something far more complicated. We need you to explain human military culture, Teklon said, gesturing to a screen showing Minho's service records. Specifically, what this designation means. Reaper. Tech. Sung-jae read through the files, his expression growing more concerned with each page. Where did you get this information? Oh, we intercepted a human vessel, Ralvik explained. The pilot claims to be civilian, but his military history is extensive. You captured a Reaper pilot? Sung-jae's voice rose. Which one? Reaper Su. Kang Minho. Sung-jae sat down heavily. You need to let him go. Explain, Teklon demanded. Sung-jae pulled up the translation database. Reaper isn't just a call sign. In human culture, the Reaper is the personification of death itself, the entity that comes to collect your soul when you die. Humanity names its most elite combat units after concepts of death and destruction. Reaper, Demon, Wraith, Valkyrie. These aren't just scary words. They're promises. Promises of what? Ralvik asked. That if you fight them, you die. Simple as that. Sung-jae pulled up more information. Reaper Squadron wasn't just any unit. They were the tip of the spear during the Frontier Wars. When humanity needed something destroyed completely and permanently, they sent the Reapers. Teklon watched footage of Minho's fighter weaving through enemy formations. He is clearly skilled, but 12 pilots cannot represent such a significant threat. You're thinking about this wrong, Sung-jae said. Let me show you something. He pulled up strategic analysis reports from the Frontier Wars. The Kreth had numerical superiority, better armor, stronger shields. By every tactical measure, they should have won that war. But they made one critical mistake. What mistake? Ralvik asked. They underestimated human aggression doctrine. See, most species fight wars to gain territory or resources. Humans fight wars to end threats. Permanently. Sung-jae displayed casualty reports. In the first year of the war, humanity lost 30 colonies and 50,000 civilians to Kreth attacks. The Kreth thought this would force a surrender. It did not, Teklon observed. No. It made humans angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Sung-jae pulled up more footage, this time from multiple Reaper Squadron missions. Watch their tactics. They don't fight for survival. They fight for annihilation. The footage showed Reaper 3, a pilot named Lee Daeun, pursuing 3 fleeing enemy ships. Her fighter took heavy damage, but she didn't break off. She followed them through an asteroid field, destroyed 2 of them, and rammed the 3rd when her weapons ran dry. Her fighter had ejection systems. She chose not to use them until the enemy was dead. They're willing to die to complete their missions, Ralvik said quietly. Not willing. Eager. Sung-jae switched to communication intercepts from a major battle. The Reaper squadron was outnumbered 20-1. Their commander, Hyun Ji-woo, gave simple orders. Stay on them. No survivors. The squadron didn't retreat. They didn't call for backup. They tore through the enemy formation like it didn't exist. When the battle ended 40 minutes later, all 20 enemy ships were destroyed. Reaper squadron suffered 2 damaged fighters, but no deaths. Teclon was silent for a long moment. And the Kreth civilization? Sung-jae pulled up the final reports from the war. 3 years of combat. Humanity deployed 30% of its military forces. By the end, the Kreth homeworld was occupied, their fleet was destroyed, and their colonies were either surrendered or abandoned. Most of the Kreth population surrendered and accepted human governance, but their civilization, as an independent entity, ceased to exist. Genocide? Ralvik asked, his voice hollow. Conquest, Sung-jae corrected. Humans don't exterminate species. They're not monsters. But they absolutely will destroy any civilization that threatens their people. The Kreth still exist as individuals. Their culture, their government, their military, those are gone. Forever. Teclon turned back to the footage of Minho's fighter. And this human we captured? He participated in this conquest. He was one of the primary instruments of it, Sung-jae confirmed. Reaper 7 had 163 confirmed capital ship kills personally. He spent 4 years hunting down every Kreth military vessel he could find. Then, why does he now fly cargo? Sung-jae pulled up Minho's discharge papers. According to his military records, he requested early separation from service 6 years ago. His reason was listed as psychological trauma and moral exhaustion. He apparently told his commanding officer he'd killed enough for 1 lifetime. A warrior with regret, Teclon mused. A warrior with a conscience, Sung-jae corrected. Which makes him more dangerous, not less. He knows exactly what he's capable of. And he chose to stop. But that doesn't mean he can't start again if he's forced to. Ralvik pulled up another file. His squadron commander, this Hyun Ji-woo. What happened to her? Sung-jae checked the records. Still active military. Currently holding the rank of commander. Leading a carrier group in the frontier sectors. She never stopped fighting. And the other squadron members? Most are still active. Lee Daeun, Reaper 3, is now a training instructor. She's teaching the next generation of human fighter pilots. Sung-jae looked at Teclon seriously. If you harm Kang Minho, you'll have to answer to all of them. And trust me, you don't want that. Teclon watched the footage one more time. Minho's fighter danced through enemy fire with a grace that looked almost peaceful. Every movement was efficient, precise, deadly. This wasn't a soldier following orders. This was an artist who had perfected his craft. Bring him back, Teclon ordered. Minho was brought to the interrogation room again. He looked more annoyed than afraid. Guards positioned themselves along the walls, keeping maximum distance from him. Sung-jae noticed none of them wanted to stand too close. We understand now what you are, Teclon said. What you were. You were named after death itself. Minho shrugged. It was just a call sign. Every squadron has one. Your people name their warriors after death and destruction, Ralvik said. This is not common among civilized species. Maybe that's your mistake, Minho replied. Thinking war is civilized. It's not. It's ugly and brutal, and it breaks things that can't be fixed. We don't pretend otherwise. You killed hundreds of enemy vessels, Teclon stated. I followed my orders. Protected my people. Did what needed to be done. Minho's voice was tired. Look, I can see you've done your research. You know who I was, but that's not who I am anymore. I left that life behind. Can you? Sung-jae asked quietly. Leave it behind? Minho was quiet for a moment. I try. Every day, I try. But no, not completely. You don't forget that stuff. You just learn to live with it. And if you were forced to fight again? Ralvik asked. Minho met his eyes. Then I'd fight. I'm not stupid. If someone threatens my life or my people, I'll defend myself. But I won't go looking for fights anymore. I'm done with that. Teklan stood. You mentioned another pilot. Lee Daeun. You called her Reaper 3. Yeah. She was my wingmate. What was she like? Minho smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Day was the scary one. Made me look soft. When I got tired and wanted to go home, she was always ready for one more mission. She loved flying more than anything else in the universe. She is now a training instructor, Sungjae said. Good for her, she'll teach them well. Probably terrify them too, but they'll be better pilots for it. Teklan made a decision. You will be returned to your vessel. This was a mistake. Minho blinked. Really? We have no cause to hold you. You are a civilian on a peaceful trade mission. Teklan paused. We regret the inconvenience. As guards escorted Minho back to his ship, Ralvik approached Teklan. Teklan watched the human leave. Because keeping him would be an act of war. And I have seen enough to know. We do not want a war with humanity. The proximity alarms on the Vrin flagship Sovereignty began screaming 20 minutes after Teklan had ordered Minho's release. The duty officer's report made the commander's blood run cold. Sir, multiple human vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel. 3 destroyers, 1 carrier, approaching at attack speed. Teklan rushed to the command center. The main display showed 4 human warships in combat formation, weapons powered, and shields at maximum. The carrier was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Sovereignty. Fighter craft were already launching from its bays. Open communication channel, Teklan ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to a human female in military uniform. Her expression was cold enough to freeze stars. The translator identified her as Admiral Choi Yuna, Terra Defense Corps, commanding officer of the TDC Incheon. This is Admiral Yuna of the Terra Defense Corps. You are holding one of our citizens. You have 30 minutes to return him unharmed. This is not a negotiation. Teklan's mandibles clicked nervously. Admiral, there has been a misunderstanding. We intercepted what we believed to be a military vessel in disputed territory. We have since discovered our error. The civilian is being released as we speak. 29 minutes. Yuna said, her expression unchanged. Please, Admiral. We meant no harm. This was an honest mistake. Your citizen was never mistreated. We are preparing his ship for departure now. Yuna leaned forward slightly. Commander, I need you to understand something very clearly. You didn't make a mistake when you captured him. Your mistake was not letting him go the moment you realized who he was. 28 minutes. Ralvik appeared at Teklan's side, his tablet showing tactical analysis. Sir, they've launched 30 fighters. All are broadcasting identification codes. He paused, his voice dropping. Sir, one of those fighters is designated Reaper 1. Teklan felt his legs weaken. Hyun Ji-woo, the original Reaper Squadron commander. Yes, sir. And according to our scans, at least 6 other fighters have Reaper designations. On the tactical display, the human fighters were moving into attack formations. They weren't defensive patterns. These were assault formations designed to destroy capital ships. Teklan had watched enough footage to recognize them. Get that human to his ship immediately, Teklan ordered. Full escort. Treat him like he's made of glass. Down in the hangar bay, Minho was already being rushed to his freighter by a squad of very nervous Vrin guards. One of them was apologizing repeatedly in broken human language. We are very sorry for mistake. Please, your ship is ready. All cargo is returned. Nothing is damaged. Minho noticed the guards were sweating despite the cool temperature. What's going on? Your military is here. The guard said. They are very angry. Please leave quickly, so they do not destroy us. Minho stopped walking. My military? How many ships? 4 warships, 1 carrier. The guard practically pushed him toward the back door. Please, we release you now. Please tell them not to shoot. Minho climbed into his cockpit and powered up his systems. The communications panel immediately lit up with multiple channels. He recognized one of the frequencies and felt his chest tighten. Reaper 7. This is Reaper 1. Do you copy? He switched to the squadron frequency he hadn't used in 6 years. Reaper 1. This is Reaper 7. I copy. Status is green. They're letting me go. Commander Hyun-Ji-woo's voice was exactly as he remembered it. Calm. Controlled. But with an edge that promised violence. Confirm. You are unharmed. I'm fine, Ji, really. They treated me okay once they figured out who I was. He checked his sensors and saw the fighter formations outside. Did you bring the whole squadron? My. Everyone who's not on assignment. That's 8 of us. A pause. Are you sure you're okay, Min? Yeah. Honestly. They seemed more scared of me than I was of them. Good. They should be scared. Jiwoo's voice softened slightly. We were worried when your beacon went active. All civilian ships had emergency beacons that activated automatically if they were captured or boarded. Minho's had triggered the moment the Vrin tractor beam grabbed his ship. He'd assumed it would alert nearby commercial vessels, not bring down an entire battle group. I didn't think anyone would notice, he said. Min, you're one of us. We notice. Jiwoo switched frequencies. Reaper 1 to Admiral Yuna. Reaper 7 confirms he is unharmed and is preparing to depart. Yuna's voice came through, still cold. Acknowledged. Reaper 1. Reaper 7. Proceed to safe distance. And await escort. Minho's freighter lifted off from the hangar deck. As he cleared the Sovereignty's hangar doors, he got his first good look at the human fleet. The Incheon was beautiful and terrifying, bristling with weapons. The 3 destroyers were smaller but no less dangerous, positioned to maximize firing angles on the Vrin ship and the fighters. He recognized the wing patterns, the way they moved. These were Reaper Squadron pilots, trained by Jiwoo herself. Some of them he'd trained personally before he left. They flew with the same deadly grace he remembered. One fighter pulled alongside his freighter. The IFF code read, Reaper 3. Hey, stranger. Lee Daeun's voice was warm. Long time no talk. Dae, I thought you were teaching at the academy. I am. But when they said someone grabbed you, I took emergency leave. Figured you might need backup. I'm flying a cargo hauler, Dae. Not exactly combat ready. Don't care. You're ours. Nobody messes with ours. Her fighter did a barrel roll around his ship, showing off. How was it? The quiet life. It was nice, Minho admitted. Until today. Back on the Sovereignty, Teklon watched the human freighter depart with a mixture of relief and lingering fear. The human fighters were maintaining perfect formation around it, protective, but ready to attack if anything went wrong. Admiral Yuna, Teklon transmitted. We apologize deeply for this incident. It was not our intention to create conflict. Yuna's expression didn't soften. Commander, I'm going to be very clear with you. That man you captured? He left military service because he was tired of killing. He chose peace, but you dragged him back into this world, even for a few hours, and that's something we don't forgive easily. We have released him unharmed, this time. But if I ever hear that you or any Vrin vessel has interfered with human civilians again, I won't send a fleet. I'll send the entire Reaper division. Do you understand the difference? Teklon looked at Ralvik, who quickly pulled up information. Reaper division. 54 pilots across 4 squadrons. Combat record that made his antennae hurt to read. We understand, Admiral. It will not happen again. See that it doesn't. Yuna's image disappeared from the screen. The human fleet began to withdraw, their fighters forming up around the carrier. Minho's freighter was in the center of the formation, protected by some of the deadliest pilots in the galaxy. Reaper 7. You are clear to proceed to your destination, Yuna transmitted. We'll escort you to the edge of this sector. That's not necessary, Admiral, Minho protested. I can make it from here. It's not about necessity. It's about making a point. Yuna's voice was firm. Every ship in this sector needs to see what happens when someone touches our people. They need to understand that there are consequences. Minho sighed but didn't argue. He knew that tone. He'd heard it plenty of times during the war. Jiwoo's private channel opened. You okay? Really? Yeah. Shaken up, but okay. You thinking about coming back? There was hope in her voice. We could use you. Training the new kids isn't the same as flying with you. Minho watched the stars ahead of him. 6 years of peace. 6 years of trying to forget. But sitting in his cockpit again, surrounded by squadron mates, hearing the old call signs, part of him remembered what it felt like to belong. No, he said finally. I'm done with that life, G. But thanks for coming to get me. Always, Min. Your family. A pause. But if you ever change your mind, we've got a spot waiting for you. The fleet escorted him for 2 hours before breaking off. One by one, the fighters peeled away, each pilot saying goodbye on the squadron channel. Day was the last to leave. Stay safe, Min. And if anyone bothers you again, you call us. We'll come running. I will. Thanks, Day. Then he was alone again, his freighter humming through empty space. The silence felt different now. Less peaceful, more lonely. He'd forgotten what it felt like to have squadron mates watching his back. He shook his head and checked his navigation. Still had 12 hours to Artemis 9. The colonists were waiting for their medical supplies. He was a cargo pilot now. That was his life. That was his choice. But as he flew through the dark, he couldn't help checking his tactical display more often than he used to. 3 months after the incident with the Vrin, Song-hyun sat in a diplomatic conference room on the neutral station Unity 7 and listened to Ambassador Teklon make very careful apologies. The Vrin commander had been reassigned to diplomatic duties after what the collective was calling the misunderstanding. We wish to ensure this incident does not damage relations between our peoples, Teklon said through his translator. The Vrin collective deeply regrets the error. Song-hyun, humanity's representative to the outer sectors, nodded politely. We appreciate your apology, Ambassador. However, I need to make something very clear. That wasn't just one citizen. That was one of our veterans. A decorated war hero who chose peace. When you detained him, you sent a message that even our peaceful citizens aren't safe in your space. We have implemented new protocols, Teklon assured him. All vessels will be scanned for civilian registration before any detention. We have also distributed information about human military designations to all our commanders. Information? Song-hyun raised an eyebrow. Warning lists, Teklon admitted. Military call signs that indicate high-risk individuals. Reaper, Valkyrie, Ghost, Wraith, Demon, and others. Our captains are instructed to exercise extreme caution when encountering anyone with these designations. Song-hyun smiled slightly. You're telling your people to be afraid of our veterans. We are telling them to be respectful, Teklon corrected. Fear is simply a natural consequence of understanding. The meeting ended with formal agreements about civilian safety and trade route protocols. But as Song-hyun left the station, he knew the real impact of the incident went far beyond official documents. The Vrin had shared their intelligence about human military capabilities with other species, not as aggression, but as warning. Within weeks, every major civilization in the sector had updated their databases. Human military call signs became legendary overnight. At a shipping station near the frontier, Minho was loading cargo when a Vrin merchant vessel docked nearby. The Vrin captain took one look at the Baekdu's registration, saw Minho's name, and immediately ordered his crew to give the human ship priority docking. When Minho asked why, the captain simply said, "It is safer for everyone." On a trade route through neutral space, two pirate vessels prepared to intercept what looked like an easy target. A human freighter, alone, carrying valuable medical supplies, but their information broker checked the ship's registry and screamed at them to break off. The pilot's name was flagged in their database. Former, military. Reaper, squadron. The pirates decided to find easier prey. At a border checkpoint, alien customs officers processed ships with their usual board efficiency until a human freighter arrived. The officer checked the registration, saw the pilot's name, and called his supervisor. They waved the ship through, without inspection. Their supervisor had distributed a memo. Do not delay any vessel operated by individuals with military backgrounds. They have earned free passage. Minho noticed the changes gradually. Ships gave him more space in traffic lanes. Station security processed him faster. Other pilots seemed nervous around him during cargo exchanges. At first, he thought it was paranoia. Then he overheard two alien traders talking. That's one of them, one whispered. A Reaper. Are you sure? The other asked nervously. I checked. Kang Minho, Reaper 7. Killed over 100 warships during their frontier campaigns. Why is he hauling cargo? Maybe he ran out of enemies to kill. Minho finished loading his cargo and left without saying anything. This was what he'd wanted to avoid. This was why he'd left the military. But his past followed him, like a shadow he couldn't shake. At a mining colony on Artemis 9, Minho delivered his supplies and met a young colonist named Kim Bora. She was 19, bright-eyed, and fascinated by spaceflight. She'd seen his ship landing and wanted to hear stories about deep space travel. Is it scary? She asked. Being out there? Alone? Sometimes, Minho admitted. But you get used to it. Were you always a cargo pilot? Minho hesitated. No, I used to do something else. What did you do? I was in the military. Fighter pilot. Bora's eyes went wide. Really? Did you fight in the frontier wars? My parents told me about those. They said humanity won against impossible odds. The odds weren't impossible, Minho said quietly. We just refused to lose. What was it like? Flying in combat? Minho looked at the young girl and saw the excitement in her face. She thought war was adventure. She thought fighting was glorious. She didn't understand what it cost. It was necessary, he said finally. But I'm glad it's over. I like this better. Flying cargo, helping colonies get supplies, seeing people build things instead of destroying them. But you must miss it sometimes, right? The excitement? Minho thought about the question. Did he miss it? He missed his squadron. He missed the certainty of having a clear mission. He missed knowing exactly who he was and what he was supposed to do. But the actual fighting? The killing? No, he said. I don't miss that part. Bora looked disappointed but nodded. As Minho walked back to his ship, she called out, Wait! What was your call sign? In the military? Minho stopped. He could lie. Tell her he was just a regular pilot. But she'd probably look it up anyway. Information traveled fast these days. Reaper 7, he said. Bora's expression changed immediately. Recognition. Then awe. Then something that looked like fear. You're one of them. The Reapers. I've heard stories. They're just stories. But are they true? Did you really destroy that many enemy ships? Minho climbed into his ship without answering. As the Baekdu lifted off, he saw Bora watching from the landing pad, her face full of questions he didn't want to answer. That night, in the quiet of hyperspace, Minho checked his messages. There was one from Jiwoo. Still training the new kids. They're good, but they're not Reaper material. Not yet. Miss flying with you. Stay safe out there. Out. Out. On. Another from Day. Some pirates tried to hit a colony convoy last week. We handled it. Reminded me of old times. When are you coming to visit? The academy has a guest instructor program. Pay is terrible, but the students would love to meet you. And one from Admiral Yuna. Your incident with the Vrin has had interesting diplomatic effects. Every species in the sector now knows not to mess with human civilians. Your service continues even in retirement. Well done, Reaper 7. Minho deleted all the messages except Jiwoo's. He'd respond to that one later. Maybe. He checked his route calculations. 2 more stops before he could head back to the core systems for maintenance. The Baekdu needed new thruster assemblies, and her hull plating was getting thin in spots. Regular wear and tear from years of honest work. As he adjusted his course, his hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. The same hands that had once guided a fighter through impossible maneuvers now guided a cargo hauler through quiet space lanes. The same reflexes that had kept him alive through 4 years of war now helped him avoid shipping hazards. He couldn't escape what he'd been. The galaxy wouldn't let him forget. But he could choose what he was now. Cargo pilot. Builder instead of destroyer. Someone who helped instead of hurt. That would have to be enough. On the Vrin homeworld, Ambassador Teklon filed his report about the diplomatic meeting with humanity. He included detailed recommendations. Human veterans should be treated with maximum respect. Their civilization produces warriors of exceptional capability, but also grants them the wisdom to choose peace. We should be grateful when they make that choice, and terrified when they don't. The report was distributed throughout the collective and shared with allied species. It became part of standard diplomatic training. How to identify human military designations. How to avoid incidents with human civilians. Why it was critical to verify before acting. But the most important lesson wasn't written in any official document. It was whispered in stations and bars and trading posts across the galaxy. Humans name their warriors after death and destruction. When humanity decides something must end, it ends. Completely. Permanently. The Vrin learned this with words. The Kreth learned it with weapons. Choose which lesson you prefer. 2. Minho didn't know his name had become a teaching example. He didn't know that young Vrin officers studied footage of his combat missions to understand human tactical doctrine. He didn't know that his simple choice to fly cargo ships had sent a message that echoed across the stars. He just flew his routes, delivered his cargo, and tried to build something better than what he'd left behind. In his cockpit, surrounded by stars, Kang Minho, former Reaper 7, current civilian pilot, checked his sensors one more time. Old habits died hard. His finger hovered over the weapons panel that his ship didn't actually have anymore before moving back to the navigation controls. The Baekdu hummed forward through the dark. Behind her, the galaxy was slowly learning an important lesson. Humanity's capacity for violence was terrifying, but their capacity for choosing peace despite that violence, that was what truly made them dangerous. Because a species that could destroy civilizations but chose not to, was one you never wanted to force back into war. The predator was sleeping, not gone. And everyone who met Minho, who saw the faded Reaper emblem on his ship's nose, understood that truth. Some lessons the galaxy learned were worth learning gently.